I'm joined now by David Glass, a certified family law specialist and former therapist who also holds a doctorate in clinical psychology. David, do you think the jury was right? Do you think that was a fair verdict?
I'm not so sure it was what we'd call a fair verdict. It was certainly a surprising verdict in that they found both of the parties had defamed each other, but that Mr. Depp's damages were significantly higher than Ms. Heard's. Most of us were predicting that this would be a wash, that neither party would walk away with anything because of the difficulty in trying to prove a defamation case.
I mean, one thing I don't understand, there are many things I don't understand about this trial, but one thing I don't understand is that Johnny Depp a few years ago sued a London tabloid that called him, quote, a wife beater, and he lost because the judge said that, I think 12 of the 14 incidences the judge said did happen. So how can a British judge and an American jury have such opposing views of the toxicity and what went on in this relationship?
The difference here is just the difference in the judicial systems. In the UK, it's a judge who sits, listens to the evidence, rules on it, and then has to turn it all over in his or her mind to determine what he or she thought happened. Our system of justice here in the United States goes with a jury of your peers. These are average, everyday people pulled from the local population, and it is left to them collectively and unanimously to decide what they think happened. And here, the jury apparently did not believe anything that Amber Heard had to say, and instead sided with Mr. Depp, saying that they thought that he was the one who was abused.
I mean, we just saw in Chloe's story there, you know, all the fans, the Johnny Depp fans outside. Do you think that perhaps there were some Johnny Depp fans on the jury?
It's possible, but not probable. That would have been something that would have been asked of the jury, potential jury members, when they selected this jury. I'm sure Ms. Heard's attorneys were very careful to determine what anyone knew about Johnny Depp and whether they were fans. I guess it's a possibility.
And Johnny Depp's made it pretty clear that he wasn't necessarily doing this for the money. He was doing this to try to clear his name. Did he?
I'm not sure he completely cleared his name. There's still a lot of facts out there that different people can have different beliefs about. I think at the end of this trial, what we learned was that both of these parties have some serious problems. They have some serious interpersonal problems. They don't act right a lot of the time, and they both had a lot of mud stick to them. But what I think Johnny Depp was looking for here was the groundswell of support from his public, so he could go back to Hollywood and say, look, I have 18 million people who have followed me through this trial. I can still sell a movie.
And what ramifications might this have in the future? I mean, if I was a woman suffering domestic abuse, what I saw in that courtroom today would make me less likely to put myself out there, come forward. I mean, is there a danger that that will be a legacy of this trial?
There is a danger. I don't think it's going to be a lasting danger. Just about all the states here in this country have changed their domestic violence restraining order laws so that it's, I don't want to say easy, but it's easier to get a restraining order. You don't need to show physical violence. You don't need to show threats of physical violence. You can get a restraining order for psychological or emotional abuse, or even for just plain harassment. That's the way the law has been moving. That's the way I think it will continue to move. I think this is a speed bump on its way there.
David Glass, thank you very much for your time.